What's good, YouTube? It's the No Level Cap podcast. This week, we're doing a review of The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. Yo, welcome back to the No Level Cap podcast with all your friendly neighborhood black nerds, where we cover all the anime, all the gaming, all the nerd culture, zero of the BS. We're here with a new episode every Monday morning. I am your host, Sage Ashford. These are my co-hosts, Rajhkeem Beck, Devin Butts, Terance Flowers. Like I said, we're here to cover, The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. It came out last month. Directed by Kenji Kamiyama, with a story by Jeffrey Addis, Will Matthews, and Philippa Boyens, who actually co-wrote the original Lord of the Rings films, and animated by Sola Entertainment, like proper 2D animation. So that, if nothing else, like before we even talk about whether the film is good or bad, if nothing else, I'm going to say that the animation for this film, glorious, top tier. If I could get a Lord of the Rings series, like TV show or series of movies animated at this quality from this studio, that'd be fantastic. Or Wheel of Time. I'm not picky, any of them. Like this, that's the one thing that I just wanted to hype up before we get started. The film released on December 5th internationally, December 13th in America. Cost $30 million to make and got a box office of $20 million. So yeah. For what it's worth, this is a canon story. If anybody was curious, for the most part, it's once again people digging about in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings appendices, try to get the history of Rohan. Before we start talking about the film, I just want to ask, how long did it take for y'all to realize this was the origin of Helm's Deep?
Once I heard the name Helm Hammerhand, and I kind of when I saw them go inside, I was like, oh, this is Helm's Deep. Yeah. Okay, this makes sense. Yeah. I
knew it, but didn't like acknowledge it. And I was like, okay, they kept calling it, what did they call it?
Thornburg?
Yeah, Hornburg, the Hornburg.
Hornburg, I'm sorry, yeah.
They kept calling it the Hornburg, and then like finally I was like, well, when are they gonna finally say like what it is? And then finally, like at the very end, they were like, we don't call it that no more. I'm like, okay, here we go. So because they, of course they had to make it obvious for people that like maybe either didn't see the films or it's been a long time since they saw the film, so they forgot. And I was waiting on them to do that. But yeah, I this is basically the origin of Helm's Deep. This is written about. It's actually brought up parts of it, but completely different, are in Middle Earth: Shadow of War, where Helm Hammerhand apparently became a Nazgul for some reason. I don't know about that one. I don't know about that. But yeah, I mean, it manages to do a Lord of the Rings story while having nothing to do with Sauron, with Morgoth, with all the rings. It's just a story set in the Lord of the Rings universe. And so I do think that's interesting. And so now I do want to get everybody's opinions, everybody's thoughts before we talk about the movie, before we get deeper into the movie. Terance, what did you think of the film?
All right. So I guess I'll kick this off by letting everyone know I'm not a big Lord of the Rings guy. I just never have been. When it comes to like Middle Earth or like the like medieval setting, I just never really been big into it. But I will say that one of the big reasons why I wanted to support this film was because it was animation, and seeing a Lord of the Rings film animated, it's really cool. So I did originally see this in theaters when it came out. I will say, I think this film is fine, and it could have been great, but it does falter in some ways. And when you learn about why it was made, like the big reason for why it was made, you can kind of see why. Ultimately, WB made this to retain the rights.
Keep the rights. I knew it. Yeah. I didn't know what the reason was, but once you said why it was made, I was like, it's to keep the rights.
Yeah, because they have supposedly a new, I guess, trilogy or film series in the works, but it was going to take more time to do that before they could because I guess it's never explicitly said like how long they have before they make a film to keep the rights, but based on what I saw earlier today, like the last thing that they did was what, like the Hobbit movies, right?
Hobbit 3, yeah.
Yeah, that one was almost maybe
a decade ago.
Over a decade.
Okay, yeah, it was a decade ago. So yeah, maybe like every 10 years they have to make a film to keep the rights, and I think this was the cheapest way of them doing it. Cheapest.
That's pretty fair, to be honest. Every 10 years, that's pretty fair.
Battle of the Five Armies came out in December 2014.
Yeah, well, yeah. So last year would have been 10 years. So yeah, I guess
10 years.
They needed to make this in order to retain the rights. Because let's be honest, you have Amazon doing their Lord of the Rings series, and everybody wants a slice of the Lord of the Rings pie. So this was their only way of keeping the rights. And yeah, you could see why this film isn't like the greatest thing ever, but it's not by any means bad. Like the positives first, like you said, Sage, earlier. The art is really good. I will admit that the animation is good, even though it's not like anything that's going to blow your socks off. You're not getting any like Sakuga moments or anything like that out of this. Like for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. It's clean. I'll say that. It's clean. Like the art and the animation is clean.
You got that one backflip. One backflip. That was the only moment where I was like, okay, we are farming in this. And it's like some Sakuga type shit. But other than that, yeah, it's just straightforward, clean animation.
Are you talking about where Hera backflipped over?
Yeah, Wolf. Wolf.
Yeah. And even that was like, dang, she really getting some airtime on this, isn't she?
I mean, look who her daddy was. The feet stepman committed. She better get something out of this.
Yeah, but I do think that the art and the animation is pretty clean. The first part of the movie is the strongest part, even though I will admit how the war started, it's kind of dumb just because I thought when I saw this in theaters that there was like some kind of conspiracy or something, like some setup that was being done to make it where the king would take out Wolf's dad. That way it would give Wolf a reason to start the war, but nah, he just got laid out in one punch. That was the catalyst for everything in this movie. The voice acting is really good. I really like Brian Cox's the King, King Helm. Like he really fits that role. Hera is a solid protagonist, even though I mean she's basic. There's nothing like grand about her anyway. But I think for the most part she's solid. But yeah, like I said, the first half of this movie is the strongest part, like the tension of the war, watching how it all develops, like the politics of it and everything. It is really engaging. And when they actually do get to the war and you find out that the king has been tricked, even though everybody was telling him like, hey man, don't do it this way. But he was too stubborn, just like Wolf said he would be. But yeah, I think where it falters is when they reach Gondor, much like the war itself, that's when the film starts to drag a bit because there's like other stuff that they kind of have to take care of and the action kind of goes away at that point. Which I'm going to ask you all a question, because when I initially watched this in theaters, a friend of mine, he was so obsessed with this part of it that he just felt like it was a huge plot hole for the film. Like, why didn't they ever just shoot Wolf when they were at Gondor? Like right when he killed the king's son, like they had the arrow men like up there on the tower, like ready and everything. Like, why didn't they ever just go ahead and shoot at him? Do you all like, since you all might be deeper in Lord of the Rings, do you know why they chose not to?
It was multiple moments like that in the movies. I think it's just
that's more than one.
How they wrote it. It's like, why didn't y'all just go ahead and do this? Y'all could have.
I got other ones that I have nothing to do with that one.
Okay, yeah, that's not the one that I was thinking of.
That was not the one I was thinking of.
I was thinking of a different one. I will see what Rajhkeem and Devin.
We'll probably all have different ones, but I know the one was for me.
Okay, well, the fact that you all have more than one, okay, this will be interesting because they were all ready, loaded. They showed them loaded with arrows and everything, ready to aim right at Wolf and his men, but they didn't do anything. And it's like, why? I didn't know if maybe there was like some political angle as to why them like Gondor couldn't shoot, but I felt like once they took the king and his men in, it's like they were involved too. So yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was a weird plot hole.
I had a lot of questions myself.
I'm glad to see that you all are in alignment with me on that one. So yeah, like the second half of the film is just really Wolf just being foolish and not listening to his general. Like, man, the general, what was his name? Targ. Like, dude kept telling Wolf like, "Hey man, don't do this, man. Your people need you."
That it was a series of bad decisions. Like he made the decision to follow that man. He shouldn't have done that.
Mm-hmm.
He made the decision like he was like, "Hey man, you probably should just kill this chick." They ain't do that. It's just a series of just poor decisions all the way to the end of the film, and then he got betrayed. It's like, man, that was unfortunate for you.
Yeah, because he killed the king's son when he told him the second son when he told him like, "Hey, just let it go." He was like, "Nah."
It's like, hey man, he'd surrendered. Like in front of everybody. Everybody heard him say, "I surrender." Just give him his son back. You can take over. That's it.
He even said, "You can have me. You had the king in your hands." And he was like, "Nah,
that ain't what I want."
And they paid for that.
Yeah, and it's like at that point, it's like you had your vengeance. Your vengeance, that was it. It's like there's nothing more after that. He's like, it ain't enough.
I got my thoughts about Wolf. I got thoughts.
But the second half was just Wolf being foolish and essentially Hera having to like, well, I feel like honestly, what really could have been cut out of this movie is the whole Wraith thing. I feel like they could have gone about it in a different way because I don't know how they could have done it differently, but it just feels like that section wasn't really needed where like they pretend that he's a ghost or something, and it's like you could just send him out like earlier to go ahead and start taking out folks. I don't know. I feel like that part could have been done a little bit differently, but overall, I do think with this film that like there is some enjoyment to be had with it, especially if you're the Lord of the Rings fan. But it's not going to like reach the remotely high highs of the trilogy. May not even reach the highs of some of the Hobbit movies for some people. I do think the runtime on it is a bit bloated. Like there's probably some chunks of it that could have been cut down a little bit more. I think like if this film maybe was like an hour 45, it would have been tighter and a lot more solid. It's just that after the actual like war part of it, which is like really the first half, after that's done, it feels like it just drags after that. And there's a lot of stuff that people are just trying to figure out to finish the war. And it's just not as interesting as the first half of it. So I think, this film is fine. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's bad, but I think it's just fine. It's like one of those films where you'll watch it and be like, that was fine for what it was. And you probably won't remember it like a month or two down the line. In fact, rewatching this film was actually good for me because there were some parts where I was like, I don't really remember what happened. Like I remember thinking this film was just fine and that was it. And so I definitely had to rewatch it for the podcast. But yeah, it's if I were to give it a score, maybe like a very solid 6, 7 if I'm being generous. That's what I give it. Yeah.
Okay. So that's respectable. Devin, what did you think of the film?
I think it was a solid watch. I wouldn't consider myself a fan of Lord of the Rings, but I do enjoy it. I do remember when I was younger, we used to watch those epic movies that were like 40 hours long, and I'd always remember going to sleep like at the last part of it because it just wouldn't end. But it was some good silver screen entertainment. I remember playing the games on PS2, the ones that were made by EA. Those are some good games. I didn't play the Middle Earth games, the ones that was on PS4, but I've had some interaction with the Lord of the Rings series, and having an animated film is pretty dope. And I'm gonna start off with saying that I love the way this film looks. I am a big fan of like when you take like medieval that style and look and combine it with that anime style. I think it looks really nice. A lot of the designs, like even Hera's design, some of the clothing, it was reminding me of Fire Emblem a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't even thinking like this don't even really, it didn't even seem like Lord of the Rings for a little bit, like because it just didn't really like have that look. But yeah, it's fantastic in the art direction. But it was a solid movie. It started off really, really high octane. I've got to say that, the whole premise of why this war started was very stupid. Wolf is just a coward. He's a loser. That's just really what it is. You and your father run up into Hammerhand's his whole throne, and like you trying to make demands, and then you gonna get mad. He was the one that that spurred the violence on. Then he gets killed, and it's like that was your father's fault. Maybe you learn from your father's mistake, but no, I'm just going to be petty. I didn't get your daughter. I ain't get the throne, so I'm gonna have something. It's like you did all this, my guy. Got banished, did all this, built this whole giant tower, which I'm like, how long were y'all out here? Because I'm like, y'all ain't got no like super technology, no magic. Like, how did y'all build this thing?
Are you talking about the siege tower?
Yeah,
they were there for a while.
They were there, like that took the whole. Like by the time that war was over, winter was over.
I know what I'm saying, but I'm like, you think about how fast we build stuff today, but that's back then. They had no conveyors or no cranes. I'm like, boy, how are y'all doing? That thing was high up there.
Spite.
It was up there.
But yeah, like, I do think the King Hammerhead, that's a great depiction of a king. He was matter of fact, he seemed like a great person. He's not one of those kings where people seem like, oh, he's a tyrant and he's like, hey, I'm here for my people. I'm here to protect. And he was all about protecting his family. And he's like, you're not going to come up in here talking all this nonsense and think I'm just going to be like, he's like, we take this outside. It's like, why would you be foolish enough to run up on a guy he's known as Hammerhand? Why would you do that?
Clearly.
All you know as is Fraker the dead. That's what you are. Like, like you just go and like, I don't like you see this dude is a unit. He's like a freaking, he's a wall himself. I thought he could take the shirt off. He was like, yeah, but this dude is huge. Like, come on, man. So I think that whole the premise of like why things started, it was silly. It's just like, and I get it, your father died, so you should be grieving, but you still have to understand, like, your father was the one that started this. Your daughter's gonna marry my son, blah blah blah. You're like, you ain't telling me what I'm gonna do with my own daughter. The part where they went out to fight, I will say, I think he was getting a little bit, as Wolf said, he'd be stubborn. He was getting a little ahead of himself, but I get it. He's trying to protect his kingdom. He's trying to like protect. He's like, man, this is foolish. Why would you? I'm just go ahead and take this little young whippersnapper out, man. Get this out the way. I do think that when I look at like the middle of the film, when his sons died, it really affected him. I think because it's like, normally a king is like, your thought is you want to have a son. So he's like, I have two options for somebody to take the throne over. You don't necessarily think of like your daughter, I would say, but I do like the fact that he had a little bit of character development. When he woke up out of that coma, he realized, he said, like, you are my daughter. Like, so you have just as right, and I should have listened to you. And when they were, I'll get to this later, but when they were closing the doors, he closed the gate. He's like, you're it. Like, I'm handing it off to you. So I do think that was cool that he finally realized, like, you know what? You're my child. You're my blood. I lost my two sons and your two brothers, but you still here, and it's time for you to take over and you get rid of this bozo out here. One of my favorite parts of the movie, which this movie didn't have a lot of goofiness, but it had one Looney Tunes moment. When that youngest brother was on that horse and her check engine light came on, she was like, like,
he told him to get another horse.
Bro,
she did. That was foreshadowed.
That horse, it ain't it. Take my horse. So, he was like, I've trusted this old girl the whole time.
So I think this whole movie was just nobody listening to Hera when she gave them good advice.
Yep. So I'm gonna give one of my final scores. I'm gonna give it an extra 1 point just for that comedy, because that was like the only, and it was just a Looney Tune. My horse was like, I can't do it no more, man. He was like, and so Terrence, you just mentioned a moment about them not shooting Wolf. I don't know. I know Keem mentioned this. The R farming that her younger brother did, but I'm like, bro, he killed two of them. You could have killed all of them, apparently.
Okay.
He just sat there and held the bow for drew that bow for so long.
All right, so we all got the same answer then. Because I was like, bro, you just standing there, you're like, shoot one of them, dang. Like
I think he did get one, because when they came up, one of them was missing. I was like,
if I remember correctly, it was like
two.
Four.
It was four of them.
It was four of them that rolled up, and then when they got him, it was just
two.
So, I mean,
so you could have
got two.
It's like, bro, what you and the horse probably like, bro, please shoot. Like, why did you sit there so long? Like, you could just, I don't know, man. That was a comedic moment to me, man. I feel like the older brother's death, it could have been avoided too, I guess, but Warriors.
I guess that nigga died like an idiot. I ain't never seen nobody like he was for Condor. I'm like for Rohan. For Rohan, like, bro, you ain't did nothing yet.
That's why I was like, it's not
what did
over
Kobe
just
say?
yet.
what did Kobe say? Job's not done. The job ain't done. Like the dude, the villain's still just roaming around. You like took down one elephant. I'm like, okay, congratulations. Yeah. But like, it's more work to be done. But he was like, I gotta let everybody know we out here fighting. I'm like, bro.
Yeah, it's part of morale. That's morale, you know. That
I mean,
he
was his father's son, you know.
They got that.
Yeah, it was just kind of unnecessary because I mean, it's like, because it's like he seemed more to be like a spitting image of his father because he was big and strong stature.
That's what he wanted.
I think he used an axe though. I don't think it was like an axe hammer kind of. I know Keem was calling him Thor.
Yeah,
I call him Thor. He just looked like Thor to me.
So that was kind of like, I guess, just for the story, the grief of it, of Hammerhead falling in the grief because both his sons passed. But yeah, that moment right there was hilarious. Again, like I said, the R farming was just unnecessary. Getting on to Wolf, it's like Terance mentioned his second in command is like, hey, bro, like I think this, you kind of, and it's always good to have somebody like that, but he should have just been like, hey, I'm gonna just leave, bro, because you're doing too much, man. Like I've told you multiple times what to do and just stop this. This is unnecessary. And but when you have an Aaron the plumber type guy, man, you can't sleep at night with that loss on your mind. You got to run the fade in a real way. He was like, I can't sleep at night like this. You killed my father and I can't have your daughter? Nah, bro. Nah. What Eric Kamiyama asked him, King, are you going to ruin this moment? I absolutely have to. I absolutely have to.
You do that every time.
If you really think about it, this whole movie once again is something we've talked about many times before.
I was gonna bring that up when I talked.
A man that can't take an L is a dangerous thing, man.
You with John Stark is like, I can't do it, man.
Just take your L and go home. No. I'm about to ruin everybody's life just because I'm a little angry. Like, okay, I'm
just sat outside that stronghold. Was like, yeah, we gonna sit here and we gonna build this siege thing. We gonna sit here. I'm a close soon. So another one, I actually do like the part where he woke up and he's gone, and Harris, she's like, "Where's my father?" She goes off into a secret compartment, and the little witch, which I was joking about, I made a reference to a magic character. She looks just like the character. She was also the weird panning on her face. Like, why did y'all zoom in on her face like that? That was so weird. When she was talking of the woman died of a disease before she got to wear this dress, and it just like did this weird. I'm like, okay.
It's trying to creep you out.
Yeah, I guess so. But they did it twice. I'm like, all right, okay. So they go out, and Wolf's men are like, "That's the wraith of Hammerhead. He's ripping the bit apart and eating him." Like, no, he just killing y'all one by one. But this goblin thing, this orc thing over here, he's the one that's eating y'all. So I think that was kind of funny, the fact that they thought that he was a wraith. He was just out there taking them out, but the thing was coming behind him and cleaning up. So they think like, oh, he's just, they were just terrified. And Rajhkeem had me laughing because he was like, man, Harris should have left him alone because he was doing fine to me. He could have took all of them out. Like, it's like he gets a power buff when he don't have a weapon. So it's like, you should just let him go ahead and take all of them out.
I'm not joking either.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that the winter wasn't affecting anybody because everybody could just be out there in the cold and it just wouldn't affect them at all.
Which is weird because it's like he was out there doing all that. I'm like, how long was he out there? But then he froze to death. I'm like, I feel like he should have been immune to that. Like, he out here doing all this.
I think he just had resistance, but he wasn't immune. So, he'd go out there for a little while and be like, all right, I done hit my limit. Let me take my ass back home, warm back up, and we'll start this again tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think also the part where it happened was, it seemed like that was the worst in terms of the winter that it had been.
Yeah, when
like the snow was like really like
you couldn't even see.
It was like a full on blizzard. So I think that was,
which is why the legend happened. Yeah, they couldn't see him like a race.
Yeah, and I mean him like fighting that thing. I'm just like, yeah, this dude just a superhuman. Like he was literally getting punched by that thing. Like, oh, that tickled. Like, bro, like this a whole
like this man fight better without the weapons than with the weapons.
Like he freaking punched that thing's horn off. I'm like, bro, like just go punch the tower down. Just go punch the seat. Just punch it down. What are you doing? Just go rip it out the ground. But yeah, I think I'm glad he had that moment of clarity. Like, hey, I because when she was like crying, she's like, I need you. I'm sure he heard her, and he was like, yeah, you're my daughter. You're still my blood. I know I had 2 sons that I prefer to be on the throne, but hey, you got it because you deserve it. Take care of that bozo. The end, you think that Wolf is like, okay, I surrender now. He's still trying to. I'm just like, bro, just give up.
No,
just stop.
No,
like
I refuse to take this L.
Like he killed his second in command. I'm like, bro, like it, and then he get choked out to death. Like this, how you went out, my guy. You did all this to get choked out. You know. But yeah, like the king, he was out there fighting. He's like, is there none left to? I'm like, hey, this man is. He stood on business. I say that king right there. Hey, he was out there like a Mortal Kombat character when he was froze. He was just like, he stood on business, man. So I enjoyed seeing him just like he was just fighting for just to protect his people, protect his family. And just unfortunately, you have to run into a dude that just can't take a loss, man. And that's how it is, man. Overall, this I think I give it a 7. Like I said, the animation for me was I really liked the visuals. There were some cool moments. I even like some of the moments where they was fighting those elephants, and I feel like that was kind of a reference back to some of the old 64 Star Wars game with those Atwalkers, and they had to like tie their legs up or get their legs damaged to like knock them down. And that scene where they were fighting, too, so. Yeah, and like Hammerhead, him and his son were literally just breaking this thing's leg. I'm like, y'all some strong men, bro. Y'all just out here tearing these things' legs up. I'm sure them elephants like, bro, y'all couldn't get me some leg guards or something, bro. Like, please. So that was cool moments like that. That crazy scene where that first elephant got eaten by this freaking giant like Venus tree fly trap thing was. I'm like, bro, that elephant was like, man, I wish I had left y'all alone, bro. That was like a pretty cool scene. Decent fighting. The premise was a little petty, I will say. Just it wasn't a little petty, it was really petty. But yeah, I give it a 7. It was a decent watch. I was engaged all the way through. I think it was solid. You know, I might start watching some consuming some more Lord of the Rings content now, you know.
Okay. 7 out of 10. Respectable. Rajhkeem, what you think of the film?
Yeah. So I will say kind of along with Terance said, I'm gonna say first, this kind of is a story of almost 2 different films together. So the beginning of the film is a lot more tight, a lot more it catches your attention early, but it's also very traditional, like in its format. You have an outside presence coming to a kingdom, kind of talk noise to the king. The king doesn't like that. They get into it and it causes war to happen. The theme of this movie to me was like how far pride will make you fall. From the highest heights to the lowest lows. You can attain everything you want in this life, but pride can get in the way of that. It was represented in the king. He had a lot of pride in being the one to be out the forefront, protecting his family, being the symbol of his people. And that level of pride, even though he went out heroically, did lead to his downfall. You had Freka in the very beginning, who was talking smack to the king, basically showing that like, you're not better than me just because you're the king, and you really need to marry my boy. And he kind of tried to assert himself into a position of power that led to his downfall. You had Wolf, who was the main villain of the story, the son of Freka. He's been banished. He's been his love interest does not want him. And he took a huge L. He took one of the biggest L's you can take, probably. Honestly, he lost the girl, he lost his land, and he lost his dad at one time. That was crazy.
Drake out
but that the level of his pride, like getting to him in multiple instances, he could have gotten out of that. They gave him like literally early in the film, middle of the film, late film, he could have got out of this situation multiple times, and his pride would not let him because he wanted to seek vengeance. So that running theme of the movie is that the pride of men can get in the way of progress and prosperity. I think that was a cool thing. I would say like the beginning of this film, like I said earlier, it's a lot tighter. It's a lot more focused. It gets right to it, especially with the death. Once the old dude dies at the very beginning, I knew this movie was not playing. I was like, oh, they're not playing. Because when you're used to Lord of the Rings content, as I am more of a Lord of the Rings fan as far as the films. I know Sage, he's read Lord of the Rings media. But as far as films, I'm a big fan of the films. I'm used to a slower pace. I'm used to the world building, the character development, the different class distinctions. This is a lot more focused, even for a 2-hour film. Now, later, you kind of get a little bit of that, and I think a little too late they start tying it into the rest of the world. But early on, it's very focused. It's very like right to it. You get to what happens with Wolf and his family. them getting banished. Him, I call him Evil Jon Snow because he went to the people of the wilds. And instead of like, uniting the people of the wilds with the people, he turned the wilds against the people. He was evil Jon Snow. He even looked like Jon Snow. It's crazy. So him being the villain, I thought was okay. I think some parts of this film early on are a little tropey, but with Tolkien, I always give it a pass because they created like a lot of the tropes. So I'm never as mad about it when I see Tolkien media because it's very traditional on purpose because it kind of created a lot of the traditions we have with fantasy. I will say, in one regard, like the early parts of the film, the action scenes were really spot on. I agree with everything you guys said about the animation. I love how this film looks, how it looks in motion. It seems like they use some 3D elements at certain spots. I think at certain elements you kind of tell, but for the most part, I think this is solid action in this film. Like the fantastical elements when they're fighting the giant elephants, man, on horseback. It's like a spectacle. I've always loved the Lord of the Rings spectacle when it comes to war, like the grandioseness of war. It makes war seem bigger than a lot of other films, or a lot of other medias make it seem. It feels like a grand battle, and it felt like a grand battle every time they were fighting. I will say Hera, who is the protagonist of this story, I have a similar mindset towards her. She's okay. She's doesn't get super character development, but I think she does exactly what she needs to do. She goes through her own hero's journey in a different way. And like it kind of comes full circle to her, the legends of the warrior maidens that are told early in the story, and like her disapproval with getting married and not having her own choices. It's kind of something we've seen before. We've seen it before in other medias, but I think it's executed well here. Where the film turns is after the king is betrayed by his advisor, because Lord have mercy, we need another story where king is betrayed by his advisor. At least they got the advisor out of here fast. They got him out of here real quick. As soon as they found out, dead. I was like, all right, let's not play around with that. I've seen enough of that in my life. Let's get this out of here. But when the film turns into like the second half is after the war is pretty much like the first part of the war is kind of over. They've made it to Thornburg. And the two sons have been killed in front of them. They're kind of making this hold here while Wolf and his men are outside trying to siege them. And then it kind of slows down. Now, for me, as an old Lord of the Rings fan, I don't mind the slowdown because I'm used to that. I'm used to the Lord of the Rings kind of building itself at certain points to build characters and stories. And I remember Terance mentioned earlier that he thought the Wraith scene could have been eliminated. I kind of disagree with that. I feel like they tied that in well towards the end of the film. Whereas like the king coming out, it made a lot of sense when you hear what he said, I gotta protect my family. I gotta be the one protecting my family. And the loss of his sons broke him. And I thought it was actually really cool how they had this moment where this winter is here and the war is stalled basically because no one can even see each other. And he's just going out and just killing these people little by little. The tie-in with the goblin, the orcs, I thought what was happening, this is my interpretation of it, was that as he was killing them, he was purposefully going in areas and watching where the orcs were, so the orcs would eat the bodies, so it would make it look even worse. It's like psychological warfare, because warfare isn't always just run on people. He was doing a different strategy, like attacking them from the sides there. And of course, she goes to look for her father, and he's out there. And I mentioned, Devin's right. I was watching the film, I was like, Joe, I know like rows of bodies. Like they had laid out a dozen, 13, 14, 15 dudes. I'm like, y'all need to leave him out there and get to work. He getting to work. He doing his job. He talking about a 180 over the character I took, man. Early in the film, of course he killed Freckle with one punch. I was like, dang, that's a strong dude. But like during the war, he made that mistake of, he made
a lot of mistakes.
He didn't make a lot of mistakes. He didn't fall back into in protection. Went out there, listened to his advisor who betrayed him. The dude who saved his daughter's life, he banished him. That was a huge mistake. Should not have done that. But I was like, man, this dude's, I get what he's trying to go for, but he's doing it by the wrong way. And then he went out there and was like, you know what? I was going by the wrong way. Let me do this myself. And he went out and get Metal Gear Solid. Solid Snake. Knocking out dudes. I was like, leave him out there. Give about 2 weeks. 2 more weeks. This war is over. Bro, like, them dudes were so scared of that dude, bro. Like, man, that man go out here killing people every night, man. It's a wraith, bro. He didn't die and came back as a wraith. He killing all of us.
They say he can't be stopped.
He can't be stopped. That's exactly what I want to hear. If I'm on the other side, I'm like, yeah, that's right. He is killing y'all. Y'all better leave us alone. Fuck y'all, man. Okay, now we get to the part of the film. Now, since I mentioned that, so the next part of the film, after she finds her dad in the wilderness, she basically convinces him to come back. That this strategy can't work. It was working. I don't care what nobody say. He comes back, and then they're chasing them because they realize what's happening. And as I'm watching this, I'm like, they're not following you well. They're like slipping up the slope. Wolf went out there, and what he gonna do against this dude? Nothing. And they're like, he's beating them all one by one. I'm like, why don't y'all just open the doors right now, bring your boys out, and finish this shit? Like, they've been like demoralized. He killed a bunch of them. And then, like, I guess the idea was they didn't want the women and kids and stuff to be exposed. That made perfect sense. But what got me, and I can't get over this was my moment. When he opened that door, he got stuck. I'm like, okay, got stuck is when the time makes sense. He opens it up, lets his daughter through, and is like, nah, I'm going to close it. I'm like, y'all having a full-blown conversation, and nobody's behind you right now. Literally, you could have just opened up a little more and just got through and closed it. You had enough time.
I guess the implication was that they couldn't open it any further. Now, it's very plot convenient.
Yes.
But they would have definitely had to open it further because they just barely opened it. They was like, get your little ass in there. And it's like, obviously, his big ass was not going to fit in there. So it's like, oh, okay.
I guess, man.
Maybe it's a Man of Steel moment where it's like, nah, Clark, let me cook.
That ain't helping this case. That ain't helping this case.
Hey, man, the new Superman film is about to come out. Don't bring that bullshit up. I don't ever have to think, if this new film is good, I never have to think about that piece of shit again.
That's fair.
I think it's one of those things where it's just like a parental sacrifice where you're not really thinking like the logical thing to do, you know.
This one, at least compared to that that Pa Kent shit, at least this one kind of made sense.
Yeah.
I think it was not just, I'm sacrificing myself, but also I think he was just kind of done. Yeah. I think he just wanted to like, hey man, let's just go ahead and throw these hands and let's have it. And I mean, like even if the film made a big deal out of it, like, he froze solid. He froze on his feet, whooping their ass. And I mean, nobody was able to stop him. Eventually, I guess they just stopped sending people up there.
But you saw Wolf, he was back in the camp. Wolf back in the camp, like, well, I guess he dead now.
Oh my God,
this man was trash.
Give me a minute to talk about Wolf for a minute.
That's some top tier R for him. You frozen solid, but somehow your hair's still blowing in the wind.
That was R for it. That's how you are for. That was it. But yeah, like that was I was like a little pet peeve about it at the moment. But say that you actually make a good point, because early in the film, it's like his health has mended. But it's like he won't wake up out of his coma. It's like his spirit has been broken. Now that you say that ties in perfectly to why he would have done that. And it does happen sometimes. Sometimes, like, he lost both of his sons, and he knew, I know a part of him was like, I made the choice to do that. That was my mistake. That's on me. I need to make up for it. That does make sense tying it in. But man, what a way to go out. They made him look like a G, which was on purpose, tying into the whole Helm's Deep thing. But they made him look like a G. They made him look so cool. It was almost a little bit to a detriment of other characters because he don't look so damn cool. I was like, dang, bro, this is damn near glazing.
Even the symbolism of him being frozen solid, holding the hammer in front of the gates, like he's still like protecting, like this. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And you know what? Heroic moments like that have always felt like a Lord of the Rings to me. Like those big sacrifices, those big moments where people come into their own and make like the big chess move. It's almost like the player who makes the big play to win the Super Bowl. Like that moment that like you always remember, that people will never forget. I think that was a part of it. But yeah, that part of the movie. And then of course we get towards the end after that, the siege thing coming. They have to make a strategy. Her going back to early in the movie, the very beginning of the movie, where she made contact with this big ass bird. I damn near forgot about that bird until that moment. And then like she, gets it to have a conversation with her, get help, and gives the bird the armor to give to her cousin to wear. And then he goes, when they're in the middle of the war, he comes up on the mountain with the helmet on, and they're like, that motherfucker's still alive. They just got out of there, bro. So they're like, nah, if this man's still alive, we ain't no way we would have did. If the moment with the Wraiths didn't happen, that moment doesn't hit. Because they were legitimately scared of that dude. And then the way he died, he looked damn near invincible when he died. And they were like, all right, he's finally dead. We can see it. They didn't even like try to siege it until they saw the banners come down that he was officially dead. They're like, all right, he officially dead. They took the banners down to show that he was dead. Now let's siege it. That's how scared they were of him. So seeing that moment, and then they were like, you know what? Let's get the fuck up out of here. that doesn't work without the Wraith part. So that's why I have a little bit disagree. I think the Wraith part does need to happen. It is very different from the rest of the film, though, because I feel like the earlier part of the film is a little more grounded, and then the second part of the film leans more into like more the fantasy era. You see more goblins, you see more tie-ins, you see heroic moments, and it kind of builds up to that. So I will say this: I think I enjoyed this film a lot. I was engaged with the film from the very beginning. I will admit, though, like when I was watching last night, I watched late. I was tired, and I kind of slept through a portion of the film. So I went back this morning, rewatched the ending, and I was like, dang, I missed this. This is cool as fuck. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm gonna give it about 7.5. I liked it. It does have some flaws, does have some dry moments, but as a Lord of the Rings fan, I do like the slower moments sometimes to build the characters. I just think that there wasn't a whole lot of character development compared to what we could have gotten this time frame. But the character moments we do have that do shine are pretty cool. And Wolf is a trash villain. This dude was just, oh my God, just yeah. I'm gonna let Sage have at him. But that final fight when he fought the old girl and then like she beat him clear, and then he was like, you know what, man, I did say I was gonna do that, but I don't care about my word. I just want this vengeance. Then killed his own homie. I was like, yeah, this dude is gutter trash. Just get him out of here. I'm glad. And she tried to show that nigga mercy at the end. There's a lot of showing mercy. This is the one film I was like, man, y'all need to stop showing mercy. I don't normally say that, but like it kept biting
like I was
y'all.
watching Invincible.
It was too much mercy. Y'all, some of these guys need to cut out for good. Some of y'all gotta go for good.
Sometimes
go for good.
People gotta go for shit to get better.
That's just what had to happen. Oh, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I actually liked it more than I thought I would. I expected a even slower film, I guess, and more world building. But this was more of a concise, shorter told story because it was telling a specific story about Helm's Deep and its legend. So I think that actually helped the film a bit. It wasn't too slow in the beginning. It does drag a little in the middle, but there are the character moments that do happen that I enjoy, like the end fight, the moment with Helm at the end, he's the hero. That was really cool. I like those moments. Dude, the moment on top of the mountain when the dude has the armor, that was a cool tie-in to everything that was going on. I like those moments a lot. I think they helped me like this film a little more.
Okay.
Real quick,
up,
just to clarify the Wraith thing. I will say that like after you've made your case for it, it's like I do agree that like yeah, you should. Ultimately, what I'm getting at is I feel like this film could have been tighter. Like there are some points that drag, and I feel like there's some stuff that could definitely been taken out, but I'm not sure what parts exactly you take out to make it tighter. That's just why I mentioned the Wraith thing, because I think maybe there's some aspects of it that could have been tweaked, but you are right that I do think it's integral to the story. But I don't know. I just feel like there are some things that could have been done to make this film a bit more focused. That way it doesn't have as much drag in the second half as it has, because it does. Like, there's just no way around it. It does drag in the second half.
I don't know what. Yeah, I mean, like, I definitely agree that it's too long. Very interesting. This is an interesting film, because it's like 2 hours long, and somehow there's not enough character development for a lot of the characters in it.
It sure
outside of the main character. And then, like, somehow, despite not having enough character development for certainly her brothers, Hama and Haleth, not enough development for them. Despite not having enough character development, it still feels too long. Like, there's a point. I think they got to what is it before it's Helm's Deep again?
Gondor?
No, it's Rohirrim, right?
No,
or
hold on.
Are you talking about what the place is called?
Yeah.
Hornburg?
Hornburg. Yeah, thank you. When they got to Hornburg, I was like, I looked at the timer because I had to watch this film this morning because I didn't get a chance to finish it last night. I looked at the film this morning and they got to Hornburg and I was like, Jesus, there's an hour left of this shit.
Yep.
How the fuck? So yeah, it's definitely way too long, especially for there to not be enough character development. So maybe I don't know what you cut. I don't know. I don't get that part, but you definitely needed to cut something. It definitely needs to be tighter. It could have been, if this film was an hour 40, I'd be like, yeah, that's the perfect length.
That's the runtime that I give it, like an hour 45 max.
Exactly. And an hour 45 might, I don't know, like you still might be able to cut about 5 minutes off that bitch. Because I mean, like at an hour 40, I'm like, okay, this like right over the line of too long. But it would have been enough so that you got the whole point of the film. But I don't know, like it's a very interesting film. There's so much that happens here. Like I will say this, the way that the war initially started, I'm not too mad at that. It feels like, because Lord of the Rings was never really great with political intrigue in the first place. It's a very if you look in for political intrigue in the vein of Game of Thrones, like that's the wrong universe for that.
Yeah.
This is very much fairy tales and legends and all that type shit, mythology. It leans into that, and it very much has, because if you go back through history, a lot of wars, especially back in the day, like during an era where they would have had swords and shields and all that shit, a lot of fights started over dumb shit. Because I mean, like they weren't that smart to begin with. They were still, throwing they shit out the window and shit. So I mean, like they didn't have indoor plumbing. How smart could they have been, really? And I'm joking about that, but I'm also not joking. Like a lot of fights were started over petty things back in the day. And Lord of the Rings, I mean, like Tolkien was very much a student of history. So I mean, like it's not a surprise that he would have made a war start over something silly. And it's what's interesting to me is that aside from Hera, she's not canon at all. Like nothing she does is canon. The story of Helm's Deep, how Helm's Deep came to be, Helm, Haleth, all that stuff, that's canon. It's weird, like how they built the story. And to me, like, let's start here, because I got a lot of problems. One, why'd the advisor turn into a bad guy? Did they ever explain that?
Nope.
They never really said any reason as to why he sided with Wolf and his men. Yeah, I don't know.
Didn't actually make any sense, because I mean, when Wolf was like super wealthy or had hella connections, or
I mean, heck, Wolf even lied about there being gold in Gondor.
Because he was broke. He had no more money left. Like he spent all his money, and I'll get to Wolf in a minute. I'm gonna get to Wolf in a minute. I just didn't understand why the advisor was a bad guy. I thought that, I was like, point. Why are you evil? Like there was no reason.
Just for the trope.
Yeah, and you could have took that out entirely, and nothing would have changed, because it's not like you didn't even see his people show up to help Wolf fight, unless I missed something. I don't think they showed his people show up, like, because it was like, I pledged 300 riders, and it was really more like he pledged to not show up, I guess. Now, the one thing I will say is he did trick them into not asking Gondor for aid, which, by the way, all I would have needed to have heard was, hey, man, Wolf, I told Wolf that Rohan and Gondor, if they stood together, like, you couldn't stand a chance against us. And his response was, yeah, your father's too fucking stubborn to ask for help, so I ain't got to worry about that. That would have been all I needed to know, to be like, all right, you know what? Send somebody. We're going to ask for some help. We just going to squash this fucking rebellion, and there will be no, and I'm going to just kill this nigga, and then we'll just never speak of this again. But instead, he hold himself. Now, some of the things that were changed, I do think it would have been better if, like, maybe not the Archer kid, but definitely his other son, the way he died, I'm like, man, you died in a silly way. And I'm like, apparently in the actual appendix or whatever, he died as like the last soldier holding the ground of the city, and there was nobody left. He was the last to fall, but he stood to the last. Like, okay, cool, I can rock with that. The other dude, the Archer, he died like trying to go find some food. Like him and
that's better.
Yeah, I know,
much
right?
better this film.
I was like, I looked it up. They said he like him and like a small band of people left out into the blizzard in search of food, and then they just never returned. And I mean, like you could narrate that to sound cold, like, oh, okay, they went out there. They're like, of course, they already showed you how desperate they were for food. And so, like, you could narrate it in such a way where it's just like, yeah, and then they were just never heard from again. And so that just helps the desperation of like, man, we that was our last hope for resources and help, and now we don't even get that. Like, okay, that would have been cool. But yeah, I mean, I can't. It's gonna bug me. Oh, one other thing that did bother me about this film, I felt like the war and the really just the war, like the early part, the first half, the war, I thought that was too rushed. I like it just didn't. It never matched the grandiosity of like Helm's Deep or Minas Tirith. I was like, man, I really would have liked it if they had shown more of that. I mean, like, hell, you had 2 hours, and obviously we all agreed that it was too long. So maybe you could have used that 2 hours to have a little bit more of a fight. Because I'm gonna be honest, if you go back to Lord of the Rings 2 and 3, Twin Towers and Return of the King, those fights, those wars are long, like half the films. And those films are like 3 hours long. Half the film is just fighting. Man. So you could have done the war for much longer if you wanted to. And
that's honestly, I don't think anybody still top those like that war design to me.
No shot. Like the best you get is like there's one scene in Game of Thrones where it's like the wall and that shit. But that's a different kind of warfare. Yeah. But at least that they were trying to do their own thing and they managed to create something of the same level of epicness. But like outside of that, like no, nothing's ever topped that. And what's weird is that we have this much money. I mean, when you have like effectively you have an unlimited budget because it's animation. So like there are certain things that you don't have to worry about. So you could have just like written it. You could have added whatever you wanted to make this seem more epic. And they were like, nah, we straight. It's like, I wish you hadn't. I wish they had stretched it out a little bit more.
I think that might feed into the rushed aspect of it, because I believe when I was looking into it, like this film was a bit rushed to try and get it out to keep the rights. So I think that probably is part of it as well.
That's fascinating too, because the animation doesn't really suffer for the most part. It looks great. So the fact that they managed to make a film that looked this good, despite the fact that they were rushed, I mean, like that's commendable of the art team. So I'll give them that. As far as this film got the worst goddamn villain I've seen in at least a year, possibly a decade. Like probably the worst villain of the 2020s. Like he was trash from moment one. And I think they tricked me by making Wolf look kind of cool at first. Yep. And so I was like, oh, okay, maybe he's got some nobility to him.
Almost feel bad for him.
They tried to make him seem like a tragic character. Man, this man is a bitch. And like the bitchest bitch of all bitches that I ever seen in my fucking life. Like, what do you mean? Like, okay, your dad first off, your dad had no business showing up like this because you knew you wasn't like that. You knew you wasn't built like that. You showed up and was like, no, you gonna marry your daughter off to Gondor? Like, yeah, that's our ally. We've been doing this for centuries. Like, we gonna keep the allyship up. No, so what? She too good for Wolf? And then Wolf gonna later talk about, oh, I've always loved you. Like, not right before the fight, before the two dads fought. I've always wanted this. Like, well, if your bitch ass had gone up there and said that to her in the first place, maybe you'd have had a better shot. Probably not. She seemed like she was. I picked up that there was like almost like queer vibes, like she was a lesbian.
Definitely did.
Either a lesbian or just straight up asexual, just like not interested, because she very much said straight out, I have no interest in being married to any man. And I mean, like, cool, I understand that. Like, there have always been characters like that, even if they didn't explicitly say it. And this film doesn't explicitly say it. But like the problem is, he just never, like, he went and hid behind his dad. With you hiding behind your daddy to ask her, trying to like pressure her into marrying you. Like, what type of hoe shit is that? Go up to her yourself. But no, you gonna ask your dad to do it. Then you got your dad fucking killed because his arrogant ass was like, oh, I'm finna go box with Helm Hammerhand. Like, well, in his name was Hammerhand. And you got a little bit of that hammer, and that was it for you. And the sad part was that shit was canon. Apparently, all it took, he had that one hitter quitter. Knocked him clean the fuck out, and he was dead. I said, ain't no fucking way this nigga dead. But and he had the nerve to get mad. I'm like, what you mad for? It's your fault your dad's a bitch. Like, you got to get over it. Like, you got to just let it go. Like, oh, well, I guess my dad, he wasn't like that, and I should apologize and get my people the fuck out of here before I get some of them hammer hands. And he almost did. Like, old dude was about to choke the life out of him. And King right, it was too much mercy shown in this film. You had something you was about to say, King.
I was about to say, man, it's the way it happened in that fight. I got it. Like they got squared up.
He took 3 blows.
He took 3 blows from Frecka. Frecka was talking mad trash. That man hit that man one time and said, get up. And then he ain't getting up. But like, oh, now the king looked bewildered, like, I really killed this nigga. That man really did not. I ain't never seen a man who just wanted to fight. He really didn't want to kill that nigga. He was like, I just wanted to fight this man. He was disrespecting me. I really killed this nigga.
I think maybe he just really didn't know. Because Freckle drew blood from him. So if you drew blood from him, he had to hit him pretty hard, but I guess he just maybe outside of Hammerhand, he was like, hey man, I knock him out. I'm airing the plum out here. But
that's why I thought it was like some kind of setup, because it's like, okay, there has to be a reason why he would let himself just get knocked out like that. No, he just got knocked out.
The reason was
just a bitch. That's what the setup was.
Hammerhand had that head.
Hey, Hammerhand is the dude from One Piece, the king with the one charge punch.
Oh yeah, the one charge punch. Yeah, the instant kill anybody.
Like punch a mountain in there.
Man left, and here's what I don't understand: how'd you take over the hill people? Because you was a bitch. Like at no point did they show anything cold that you did. Like I never saw you do anything in a fight. Even in the flashback, you couldn't beat Hera when she was a child. Y'all was both kids. Y'all was duking it out. You lost in.
He didn't beat her as a grown-up people.
He sure as fuck didn't. And I bet I don't know, like there hasn't been too much talk about this film. If it was more popular, I'm sure you get the right-wing people out here, and I would be really pissed. Because at no point did they show this dude to be cold. He died getting choked out, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Nothing you did at any point was cold. Like nothing. You never had a moment where you showed up and like, oh yeah, I'm that dude. I'm gonna take out several of Helm's people by myself. Like he ain't do none of that. Nothing
he just
like
money. That's all I got.
Whose money? Like you spent it all. He spent all his money.
Get there.
And that was wild too. Targ was just like multiple times, and every time Targ spoke up, I'm like, I know you wish you didn't have this job.
Yep.
Every time, like he was like, hey man, don't just give him his son back. You can kill him. We won. That's it. Nah, fuck that. Slit the son's throat. It's like, all right, I guess that's what we doing right now. Then midway through the winter, he was like, look, man, I mean, we won. Like you the king. Just go out there and let's wrap this shit up. No, I want more. Like, okay, bro, like we gotta at least call our people back. Nah, fuck that. They're gonna be out there and we gonna be out there. It's like, why would we do that? Like, we get no benefit from this. Once again, not listening. And yeah, vengeance. Then, like, what's the other time he did this shit? Oh, look, man, we broke now. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to just tell him that it's some money in the Hornburg. Ain't no money in the Hornburg, my dude, and you know that. He's like,
he said they don't know
that. So they going to rebel against you once they, like, get everybody killed. Like, you're not thinking past what you want in the moment. Like, oh, my God, this dude was so trash, bro. Then he was like, oh, yeah, I'll take this last little fight. And Targ, once again, was like, don't take that fight. There's no reason for you to take that fight. Like, even if it is a woman, like, on the off chance that you lose, then you look, like, weak in front of everybody, and, like, she clearly planning something. Like, there's no reason for you to do this. Like, we are in the winning position. Shut up. I want this vengeance.
You forgot one, Sage.
I did forget one, because there's another one. Oh, I did forget one, actually. Yeah. Because there's one that happened even back at the beginning or in the middle of the film, when she was like, hey, man, I see what you got planned, and I would really rather you not do this. So what if I just let you marry me? And he was like, if you that disgusted by me? Yes, because you a bitch. There's nothing cool about you.
I was done with him at that point. I was like, this man is
You did forget one, Sage. You remember when he went to the throne and he took that crown and put on, and even Tar told him, hey, bro, you do realize you got the crown on, but that king's still alive.
That king's still alive.
You kind of like, do you really feel even good about this? Like,
yeah.
Like, he was like, oh, well, but I'm wearing it, though. I'm like, you a king of nothing. And he proved that multiple times. Even when Helm was out there doing his shit and was like, is there nobody to face me? I said, surely by now, Wolf would go out and face this unarmed man that is half frozen to death and is already exhausted from fighting like a troll, a goblin, hella people from multiple your own army. Like, surely now you should go out there and kill Helm Hammerhand. Nope. He looked at him and was like, oh shit, that nigga is cold. I better leave him the fuck alone. Sir, do something. Fight somebody. He fought Hera twice. Once as a child, once as an adult, and got too old. I ain't never seen nobody this trash. Like, I understand now why they say sometimes you got to make the villain look cool. Otherwise, the hero, it looked like he ain't beat nobody. Well, that's what happened. Hera didn't beat nobody. She choked that man out, and it's like, in your head, you should be telling yourself, like, okay, really, he got the size advantage, and he's, like, a man naturally is supposed to be, like, stronger, so she should be winning. If she gonna win the fight, it should be off, like, cleverness and speed. Agility. Yeah. Like, yeah. She won that fight off pure strength, and I was like, I believe it. Ain't nothing but bitching you, and so you should just get choked out. That's it. She just had the shield to that man's neck, and I'm like, that's exactly what you deserve.
Oh my God. Fight was cool though. The
fight was cool, but I mean, like, what are we doing? Like, what? Get a better villain. That's what I want. Like, if I would love to see another one of these. They're not gonna do it because they didn't make no money. But I would love to see another one of these. But I need a better villain the next time. I need somebody. If you're gonna make a snake, make a real snake. Yeah. Make a snake in the grass that's just like constantly planning and coming up with like little schemes and shit. And so you just like, oh man, this dude, I can't wait till he get his. This dude, I was like, oh, what are the people going to do for you now so that you can avoid fighting and you can avoid doing any of the actual work? And man, I don't know. But I as a whole, like the film, like it never did anything to like piss me off. Like it was just like my hatred of Wolf is just like the hatred you're supposed to have for a villain, really. And just the fact that they just never made him feel like a threat. Like I needed him to be more of a threat, and he just never was that. Sure. But I mean, even still, I rated a very okay out of 10. You know what I'm saying? Like it's fine. The animation carries the film for most of the film. The fight scenes that you do get are pretty cool. The only fight scene I thought was like lacking was like the war scene. I was like, I needed more out of that.
Yeah, other than that, Lord of the Rings movie. Yeah, you need the war
for scene. A Lord of the Rings movie. You would want like a better large scale fight, but it was fine enough. So, the only thing that I'm really tripping off of, my God, that elephant took it.
Yeah.
Oh man,
they just never talked about that again. It was like, well. The elephant got killed by this giant creature in the woods that's underwater using camouflage.
The Watcher in the Water, I believe they said it was called. Man. I said, oh, God.
It was creepy as hell.
And I had the captions on when I was watching it, and it was just saying bones crunching over and over again. I said, oh, my God. I went from being like, this is a threat to like, oh, my God, somebody do something about this.
And they swim back in the water, and they just left him alone. Nobody else with the kid.
It didn't even try to fight her no more. It was like, well, I had lunch. I appreciate you. And it's like, oh, please.
Oh, my DoorDash arrived.
My DoorDash arrived.
5 stars.
Yo.
But yeah, crazy, I mean, like, if you have not seen this film, I would recommend it. Not if you're looking for like a great piece of Lord of the Rings media, but if you're looking for something that is like a nice little, I need something to do on the weekend, or I need something to do after work. It's not a hard watch. It is long. So, I mean, get your popcorn ready. Get several buckets of popcorn, you might even say. But, yeah, I mean, like, it is a solid film that it's worth your time if you already have the streaming. What is it, on Max?
Yeah,
it's on Max.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you already got Max, it's definitely worth your time. It's worth the subscribe. I mean, like, you already subscribed. I mean, like, it's not, you're not going to feel like you wasted your time watching this. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's going to wrap this week up. If you've seen Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim, what did you think of it? Leave a comment. Let us know. If you're new to us and like this episode, I need you to hit the like button, subscribe, tell your friends about us, and do me a personal favor. Have an excellent week. Peace.